Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Florida Relocation Guide YouTube channel. I am your host, Adam Hancock, once again. And today, like the title suggests, we are giving the latest 2023 update to the Wellen Park district that's in southern Venice, Florida, in the Sarasota County area. There is a lot of magic happening here. Very unique stuff. With this is a master plan community. It's coastal, it's 9 to 11 different neighborhoods, and all those kind of things already existed. We knew that stuff. But as the market turning here, we have a lot of opportunity. The getting in early thing has come back. There's incentives. There's affordable luxury. There are unique facets to this area that I think are really hard to replicate in most spots in the entire state of Florida. So in order to do this, I'm gonna hit the geography. I'm gonna talk the neighborhoods. We're gonna talk lifestyle. We're gonna talk anything that's interesting and how to interact right now in June 2023. And I brought 3 friends on to add even more opinion beyond just myself, because I want this to be the most valuable video that is on the internet for Wellen Park in Venice, Florida. So without further ado, let's hop in. All right, category number 1, I'm going to give a foundation, then open it up, and we'll kind of conversate about it, is, I think you got to start with, in particular about Wellen Park especially, is macro geography and just infrastructure in general. So where this is in a nutshell is it's located in very southern Sarasota County, Florida. So you're below Siesta Key Beach, you're below Nokomis, Osprey, Casey Key. This is southern Venice / pretty heavy Northport, Florida. So you're very southern. But the really important thing about Wellen is that the shape of the state, as you go lower on the same interstate, it gets narrower. So by being simply southern Southwest Florida, the further south you go, the closer you are innately to the coast. Everything is closer to the coast. It's harder to get further from the beach. And that's kind of what everyone, at least in their mind at first, when they relocate to the state, is trying to achieve. I think that is maybe one of the most perfect anomalies to this area as a whole before you consider anything else. So that's the foundation for geography. But I wanted to open it up and see, what have you guys been seeing? How are people valuing this conversation? Am I overplaying that part of it versus the neighborhoods themselves? And what are you seeing when it comes to geography?
Me particular, I've taken clients around and have done like a whole parish to Wellen Park tour with them. And they go in with a certain price point, and I will show them reasonable properties like a little bit farther out from the beach up in parish areas in Palmetto and Lakewood Ranch. And 9 times out of 10, when people come down saying they want to be closer to the beach, they're willing to make that sacrifice with price and pay a little bit more to be closer. So I think you're right. That coastal proximity with new construction down there, when people desire it and something they really want, they're willing to compromise and make sacrifices in other areas to get it.
It's a little bit more on the beaches there. So actually the best surfing in this area is at Venice Beach. I don't know if you've been around the pier, or like when the waves crash in and stuff like that, but that is I've had a lot of clients move here from Hawaii and Puerto Rico, and they wind up picking this area because that's where the best surf is.
That's cool.
I do think there's a lot of people that come down here and they value proximity to the beaches. And as much as I like Lakewood Ranch, for some people, 14 miles away from the bay is just a little bit too far. So you can cut that in half. And I do feel like right now in Wellen Park, your dollar stretches a little bit further than it does in Lakewood Ranch. It's almost like you're getting in there a little bit earlier. It's a better investment opportunity right now.
Yeah. And like Beach Walk is 5 minutes away, right, from Manasota Key Beach. Right. And so many people desire that area, particularly for its coastal proximity. And what's great about Wellen Park is it's still a part of that conversation because it's still that close to the beach, even though it's not necessarily right on 41 next to Manasota Key Beach where you just hop on your golf cart and go. It's still a part of that conversation, which I think is really important.
Yeah, I think you guys kind of like circled around, one of the most interesting points about the idea of trying to live close to the water in Sarasota. It's kind of hard. Like, it is. If you take Siesta Key Beach and Lido and downtown, the cool thing about our town is it's all clustered in one area. If you go west on the north part of town, mid to north, everything that everyone dreams of is in that same area. All the culture, all the galleries, all that kind of thing. Sure. But trying to live close to that is extremely hard because downtown's in the way. So it's too good. It's too historic. It already existed. So all these new communities, they can't get that close. It's impossible. So they end up going to an outskirt. And the typical outskirt of Sarasota history, if you grew up here, is to go northeast, and that's Lakewood Ranch. That's where the land was at. One family owned it all. Parish was an outskirt. But Casey, I think you said it first. You're absolutely right. I have been in Sarasota since I was 4 years old. And the way that if you grew up here, the way people still talk about Venice is it's too far. They still view Venice like Parish. And if you're not from here, that's no. If you're not from here, no one thinks like that, really. But if you're from here, they view it like it's Northport. That's the historic nature of being 45 minutes from downtown Sarasota. But then Venice sneakily evolved into its own thing. I do think in the future here, I think it's going to exist on its own. I think people are going to choose Venice, not choose Sarasota and say, what is my options around? I need a cheaper house. What else can I do? I think they're going to choose Venice individually for Venice reasons, not as Sarasota junior reasons. But because of the evolution happened too fast, I think the economics of the pricing and the things that you can get right now still sit in that antiquated view that it's too far. So if you don't view it's too far, you can really lean in and take advantage of deemed sacrifices when we all don't think they're sacrifices currently, but the town still does.
I 100% agree with you. I have a client right now who's like really big on wanting to be near like huge department stores like Costco, Sam's Club. They need a grocery store that's 5 minutes away. And Lakewood Ranch exists where that is currently available to you. The development has been happening since the early 2000s. It's all there. You don't really have to wait for anything as far as the infrastructure surrounding the neighborhood. Wellen Park will be that 100%. There's going to be a Costco that's going to be built right across the street, grocery stores, schools being put in, medical facilities being put in all around in that area. And the thing that people are not choosing Wellen Park for is because they have to wait and they don't want to wait. They don't have the patience for it. They want to get in and do what they want to do right away. But if you're willing to buy something from the ground up and get a really good advantage as far as price cost before all those things come in, then you're going to put yourself in a really good financial opportunity to gain equity as those things develop. And I think it just takes patience. I mean, it's an underdog right now for sure. I 100% agree with you. And then once people realize that and are willing to wait for it, they're going to find themselves in a really good boat later on.
I like agree. And one of the other things I wanted to hop on a point that Adam had made is, Sarasota as it sits and all the cool stuff of downtown Sarasota, Lido, all that is already established. So you're trying to kind of have that at your disposal, at your fingertips, if you will. I think out in Lakewood Ranch, I'm probably about the same driving distance as I am to get to downtown Sarasota as I am if I come up from Wellen Park. So you don't sacrifice that. You gain closer access to Venice if you're into the whole scene of downtown Venice. It's a little more laid back, beach town, art festivals, food festivals, that kind of thing going on. So I think you gain that, and you're still proximal to downtown Sarasota, and you're closer to the beaches.
Yeah. Gain walking distance too. I think that's huge. Like Venice Public Beach being right there off of downtown. You don't have to hike over the Ringling Bridge to get to Lido if you were hanging out in downtown Sarasota. So I think that's definitely an advantage too. People who not necessarily want to climb over a hill or get back in a car and go, like, it's a couple miles right off of downtown to get to the public beach. So it's killer, definitely.
Cool. Love it. So the second thing rolling on the back of geography, I want to talk neighborhoods and communities themselves. And I just want to lay a little bit of a foundation here before we open it up of just what is this thing. There is a very unique evolution of how Wellen Park was created. It was not like Lakewood Ranch. This actually started on its own called the West Villages. And it was one of the top retirement places in the country. Only a few neighborhoods, but it's very, very mature now at the back end of all of its building. And then they added a new district that's the sexiest one, a handful of neighborhoods called Playmore. And that's the one that everyone thinks of when they think of Wellen in general, but it's not all it has available. So what it is about 9 to 11 different neighborhoods. And because of the timing evolution of basically a rebranded marketing play that combined things that weren't combined originally, it now gives buyers in 2023 multiple options, multiple districts, multiple ages, multiple builders. So I actually think it's kind of a blessing in disguise, but it definitely, when you get here, Wellen Park's website, unbelievable, by the way, but when you get here, it does not feel like the website. If you get to Lakewood, it feels exactly like the website. So someone that is experienced is going to be more helpful here, whether it's us or not. But okay, so with that being said, I wanted to open it up. What can you guys tell the audience a little bit about what that means? These separate districts, what advantages are there? How would you navigate it? How are your customers coming here in one day and getting their head around it? What are people targeting? The builders? Anything you want.
So most of the people that I've brought through town, I'm sorry, Melissa. Go ahead. So most of the people that I've brought through, I bring right to that Welcome Center because I do think the ambassadors there do a great job. Their website is very user-friendly, and it kind of narrows down in a hurry based on price point, based on amenity packages that people want in their community. Those neighborhoods that are in there, those 9 to 11 neighborhoods that you're referencing, those get knocked down usually to 3 or 4 right away, just based on price and amenity and square footage. Some people have particular home builders that they're really not interested in or more interested in some cases. But then outside of that, I think what you're referencing as far as, the West Villages and some of the resale communities, being a golfer, I've taken some people up to Sarasota National, Grand Paradiso, some of these other neighborhoods that are just outside of there. There's value to be had there because, the stuff is already there. If you want to move in and you don't want to wait for the amenities and things like that, those opportunities exist. But for the people that are willing to wait, that want to build, that want something brand spanking new, there's something for just about everybody. I referenced 3-generation living in Lakewood Ranch during another video that we did, and I think it's the same thing in Wellen Park. You could have, a young family with a grandparent or both grandparents or whatever, and everybody would still be, in their comfort zone. There'd be plenty of things for everybody to do. There's even assisted living coming to the area. So there's just everything for every age group down there.
So I think that with the Playmore District coming in, they almost kind of like erupted rapid change as to what Wellen Park was. And I think it really took a spin, which also I think we'll see rapidly play out in the census data with the age demographic. There's a new school opening up that's going to be it's a charter school, K through 8, this fall already. And there's plans for a K through 8 public school as well as a high school that will be opening in 2025 in that area. And I think that is going to naturally attract a much younger age demographic. And with that, the amenities kind of support that, the type of events that they're hosting at the Cool Today Park and things like that. But a little bit back more to the community. So I feel that people, because there is like this mature version and this, but the mature version is not that old. I mean, you can easily reshop because I kind of think of when you're shopping resale at Lakewood Ranch, a lot of the stuff you're looking at is 5, 10, 15 years old, where most of the stuff that you're resale in Wellen Park is somewhere between 0 to 5 years old. You can easily.
That's a really good point, actually.
Right.
Even Grand Park, I think it's been building forever, 10 years.
Yeah, but you can still get a 3-year-old home as a resale, but it's almost brand new. I think a lot of looking at those different communities and kind of seeing, do you want, like kind of what Chris was saying, the amenities is a huge thing, because for some of these communities, they're just breaking ground. They're brand new. They're not going to have amenities for 2 years or so. So I think a lot of families feel that need to get somewhere to get embedded and to start living now. And there's options for that. Like Grand Paradiso is a great example for that. That has a very thriving community within itself already that's been established for years.
I think there's a lot to unpack there. I liked a lot of what both of you had to say. I'm going to start with Chris. Specifically for myself, when I get clients that are interested in Wellen Park, I break it down exactly like you said. Price point, what exactly are you looking for in a home? Do you want amenities in your home? And then I can kind of gauge what neighborhoods I'm going to take them to from there. So Wellen Park Welcome Center for me is a great place to bring clients to kind of get an idea of what the infrastructure around these communities that's coming. Things that they can't see, things that are already in the mix, things that maybe the women and the men who work at that Welcome Center, they live in those areas, so they hear things, right? It's not necessarily things that they can release, to people that are looking to buy, because it's not for sure plans, but it's good to know, like, the possibility, like HCA and SMH are both going to have, Sarasota Memorial are both going to have medical facilities that are coming nearby. Melissa, you just mentioned the schools that are going to be built. Those are going to be built actually right directly above a new community coming in with Lake Spur, where it's been released that both Pulte and Lennar are building. And I just heard Mattamy is going to be building in there too. So that's going to happen next year. And amenity-rich neighborhoods, you were talking about, Adam, Inglewood over there with being a golf community, and Neil Signature building in that area too. They're actually calling that Boca Royale East now. So that is going to be an awesome community, all carriage style homes as far as the 3-car garages that they're going to have there. It's going to be huge lots. They're putting a $5 million renovation into their clubhouse as well as their golf course. They're putting in an outdoor restaurant and patio. So people who want that mature landscaping that you were just mentioning, Melissa, you can get that in a new construction in Boca Royale without having to pay this phantom equity that people who built 3 years ago are now asking for when they do a resale. That's kind of my perspective when I look at Wellen Park. I'll sell you a resale. That's no problem. You want to be in right away? No problem. We could get a resale, but just know that you're not paying from the ground like you are in these other new construction communities that have just released lots. You're now paying the people who did this already and want their value of what they paid plus some, plus interest, because they know what's selling next door, right? So that's kind of the way that I look at it and the way that I break it down for my clients. And the amenity centers that we're all waiting for to be released, if you're doing a to-be-built home, you're not necessarily waiting, because those amenity centers, the ones that I know of, like Sunstone, which is still under construction, that's going to be done by the end of this year. If you're willing to do a to-be-built or even a quick move-in that's at the end of this year, then the amenity center is going to open up right away. So I really think it's like breaking down exactly what people want within a neighborhood, what they're willing to pay for, because you're paying HOA fees that are just as expensive as other communities that have amenities, because it's smaller neighborhoods that don't have it, like Antigua, Avelina. They're all smaller home base, right? So you're paying extravagant amount in the HOA because you don't have as many people carrying that burden. So why pay $400 for a non-amenity community when you can pay $400 and get all those amenities, you know? So it's kind of a bucket. You got to fall into a bucket, right? And every client falls into a different bucket, which is awesome. And like you mentioned, I think there's a community for everybody in all of Wellen Park for what they particularly want.
Yeah,
100.
I think right now too might be one of the best times to have a clear picture that I've seen in a long time. Like when you're the builder leverage, all these kind of things, even their long timelines in a certain extent aren't as crazy as they were. So you could go in now and be a little bit more poised and patient and look at the whole picture, and you can see if someone's trying to gouge you on their equity, because now those people no longer have this recourse of like, I'm going to liquidate, make $300K in 2 years from Grand Paradiso, which I saw all the time.
Yeah.
And then go somewhere else and have some huge advantage. You know, it's more even. And the builders being more conservative are now hurting those people trying to gouge other people on resales for, so I think it's a good time to at least look, whether interest rates aside. All right, a couple of things I want to summarize there that I think are interesting based on what you guys said. One, the outskirt conversation of things being overall cheaper, I think opened up some interesting opportunities. One, in Wellen, you almost have a clear example of what that community is elsewhere, almost 100% across the board. Like Abilene and Wisteria, you have Neil communities all over town. You can look at Windward and you can get an example of like what this may look like, and then see the price divides. And you can see how a builder pricing their own communities in separate parts of town is the best education for how people view the value of those towns. Look at Neil and their pricing on a similar age community in Venice and in Englewood versus Parrish. You know, they'll tell you they're the same company. It's the same margin. So I think that's interesting. But the overall cheaper provides opportunities to do interesting things. Like, you know, Toll Brothers in Lakewood Ranch is way more expensive than Solstice is in Venice. So there's this not custom luxury thing that gives you an advantage. Sam Rogers, which I'm speaking to Danielle Adams, who's the, I think, business development director or something for Sam Rogers.
Marketing.
Yeah. But custom home of what she's offering there, if you put that in Sarasota, so these getting in early opportunities, I think when it's at maturity, are not coming back. And then one of the most interesting things that, Melissa, you said about the age, and I know we've spoke a lot about like the misnomer of Venice just being no kids, is that, I think they went after a no frills, pared down home, pared down sizes, low burden concept, almost in Wellen Park across the board. Smaller homes, less amenities, but I think they originally did it to appeal to older folks that were exiting large single families. But what happened is by doing that, you also lowered the price point. At the same time, Venice sneakily became in favor for young families that were looking for a quaint beach environment. Well, that lower price for a family is also attractive. If they can find a home big enough,
and
they don't have.
It's always been zoned for good schools, and then once it gets its own organic schools, those are just going to be phenomenal.
And you hit a demographic when you were trying to appeal to a different party without saying it. You also hit a demographic you weren't trying to appeal to, but the price point did. And so I think a bunch of things collided to make it younger, and I don't think that was the original intention. And now they're building concepts around that intentionally, which I think is really interesting. And I'll give you one more, and then we'll move on. The Welcome Center thing, I just want to clear something up really quick. That the Welcome Center thing of how to interact with the Welcome Center. We all talk highly about them, but a lot of the stigma of realtors and welcome centers are: should I do it myself? Do I need a realtor? What are these people versus the realtor? And I'm the last person that is like exclusive agreements and we're more valuable than them or anything like that. But the best way to interact with them in my mind is both. These guys are ambassadors. They're paid as ambassadors with no monetary gain other than their salary to promote the town like a chamber of commerce. So they're the smartest people in the room about the development of that community because they're the only ones that find out first. But they're also the most biased people in the room because they physically have to be. So it's like dealing with the builder rep. Your realtor is the one that could, if you're working with the right person, could pull back the layers of, they're going to always say Venice is the greatest thing ever, Wellen Park's the greatest thing ever, but you also want their information. Super smart. You just need to get credibility. So I think and they're very realtor friendly. Like, this is a partnership. So the way people should interact, whether they went there first or not, is I think they should use everyone. They should use all of it. They should use me, Sunshine State agent, the Welcome Center agent, and you got a team that would be really hard to replicate elsewhere with deep knowledge of the community and the town. So I just want to throw that shameless plug out there real quick. Okay, let's talk lifestyle, and then we'll just talk anything else we missed. All right, so the lifestyle, the big thing about lifestyle here is, again, I think geography matters here particularly more than just amenities. But what I'm seeing almost across the board for a lot of folks are gone are the days where an individual neighborhood that stands alone with a community pool and all this kind of thing satiates the needs of what people want. People used to value the amenities of one neighborhood versus another. That to me is commonplace. All these homes should be nice. All the landscape should be nice. The HOA fees should be somewhat regulated because you have too many players in the game where you can't just make them whatever you want because people have options. So people are no longer they want more when they leave their community, and they want it accessible, and they don't want to go into town for everything. I think that's the real want of the future of buying new construction. And Wellen Park, I feel like, has one of the best mousetraps in the state of Florida to solve that issue, because what they tried to do is they tried to solve coastal proximity. They tried to solve it's their own town that wasn't going to downtown Venice necessarily without losing the town itself. And they weirdly, like Casey mentioned, solved walkability. And that is incredibly rare in the state of Florida, is being able to walk from your neighborhood to a town. It's so rare. Mile drive is not, walkability is. So this is one of the, I think Chris and I talked about this in another video, one of the most golf-friendly master plan communities in the state of Florida, beyond the villages or something. So I think that's kind of the need and the wants. Can you guys talk about what Wellen is to that conversation? The town, Venice Island, the amenities, the future development of what's coming, that whole conversation?
As far as downtown Wellen Park, only the first phase is open. There's going to be 2 more phases, and there's already 3 or 4 anchor restaurants in there. There's a event hall there. Melissa and I attended a conference there a couple of weeks ago. They're having a wedding expo there. You can rent that space out. It's beautiful. It overlooks the lake and the lawn, and the restaurant next door caters to it. There's a outfitter that you can rent kayaks and canoes and paddle boats and bicycles and all that. There's a 3.2 mile track that runs all around that lake that all this stuff sits on. So, you can get your fitness needs in. There's an ice cream place. There's Chegan friendly ice cream for you there, Casey, at the ice cream place. Yeah, there's a home design center. I can't remember the name of the store. It looked very high end. There's Oak and Stone craft beers and artisan pizzas that's going to have a roof deck type deal that looks out over that lake. All that stuff's going to be right in your backyard if you're in that Playmore district. And again, I'm a big ambassador for where I live in Lakewood Ranch, and I love going to Waterside. I think they've kind of recreated a smaller Waterside with more accessibility to the neighborhoods. Like you said, you could walk there, bike there, take your golf cart there. I think that, to me, is, the real appeal. If you were kind of weighing one against the other, besides the coastal proximity, I would say that would be the appeal to me, would be the accessibility to get to that little downtown and enjoy that.
And
I think of
mention. Go ahead, Melissa.
Go ahead.
No,
So, to me, the Cool Today Park is like the heart of Wellen Park. Like, that is the center of things. And I think there's a huge investor aspect that, and almost it's not going to be touristy like Siesta Key is touristy, but I think it's going to be touristy and more of like an alternative lifestyle for a potential time. Maybe like it's the concept of going to a warm, beachy place where you can get to the beach within 20 minutes. And then you also can do all these outdoor activities, biking, walking, paddleboarding, canoeing, all those things that you would want to do, and kind of have this fun lifestyle that, because to me, Wellen Park is way more focused on fun and activities and restaurants and coffee shops than Waterside is. Waterside's a healthy mix, I think, of like commercial and businesses, professional aspects and stuff like that. I think that the draw of people that are going to come here for that, and stay for the whole spring training and have that walkability to go to those games and then hit the downtown and then golf or walk back to your home is going to be a huge investment standpoint for people that are going to want to buy rental properties. And there's a couple communities that you can see very clearly support that concept of that's what they were kind of intending with this.
Yeah, and I think what's awesome, what ties both of what you guys said together too, is the fact that that whole area south of 41, the Playmore district, is golf cart friendly, which it takes away that whole walkability factor. You could put the family in a golf cart. You go to the amenity center if you want in your community. You go to the pool, go to the fitness center. You could go out to dinner right at Wellen Park right afterwards. And then you could go catch a baseball game. You could go have lunch at Cool Today Park. You could go see concerts there, movie nights there. They're going to be building commercial space as well as a hotel right next to Cool Today Park. They're going to be building a hotel right next to downtown. I've heard there's talks of them expanding into that acreage around the lake, putting in more infrastructure, more commercial space. So I think it's only going to grow, which is really exciting. And the other thing, too, is how multi-generational and how user-friendly it is for somebody who wants to come and explore. And if you have family members, like you mentioned, who need particular spaces, they're going to have a 55-plus apartment complexes. There's 2 apartment complexes that are, one's already open, one's set to be open, Stillwell, and then the other one is Tropia Apartments. Those are leasing currently, so people could get in there, live there for the 6 months or a year like they want to while they decide, and then be able to navigate into a home and still be able to enjoy everything that the community in the city is currently offering. So I think it's incredibly unique, and it's smart the way that the developers kind of built things so that you don't have to go anywhere else to be able to start enjoying the lifestyle, whether you're ready to purchase a home or whether you need to move there and live there and rent for a little while you're navigating the space or getting yourself financially ready to purchase a home. So it's, I think, out of the park, not no pun intended with Cool Today, but I think it's cool.
That was a great point, because I just sent an email to a client this morning. They're looking for maybe 55 and over housing for their grandparents. They just built somewhere else nearby. Mm-hmm. And that was exactly what I suggested to them, is to look into these leases. I sent them links. Why not come down before you make the financial commitment of, building or buying a resale or whatever? Live the lifestyle, enjoy going to, Wednesday night cornhole on that lawn, or the farmer's market that's there every Sunday, all the other different events that they have. Why not experience it and say, okay, this is actually where I want to plunk down, the majority of my money and buy a home?
Yeah. And let's talk a little bit about that 55 plus, that Brightmoor neighborhood that's going to be coming in by Mattamy. That is going to be killer. I got some inside details. I'm sure you guys did too. A lot of stuff hasn't been released. I know it's going to be single families and paired villas. I've heard that aside from the other Mattamy communities that are opening up, this one is actually going to be gas, which is awesome because everywhere else is electrical. I've heard they're going to have 2 different amenity centers in there. I've also heard that they're going to have 8 pickleball courts and a stadium pickleball court in there. So obviously we all know, living in this area, the draw that pickleball has, not just in Florida, all over the country, right? Everybody's really excited about it. So Brightmoor in general, I think, is going to be killer. There's going to be a cafe on site, not a restaurant bar necessarily, but still a place for people to get a bite. They're going to have no back-to-back lots. So all of the homes are going to be super desirable. as far as how unique of a community this is going to be within all of Wellen Park in general. It's the only one that they've currently released that's going to be 55 plus, and sales are set to start at the end of this year. They've already started a bunch of quick move-in homes. If you go by, there's 2 or 3 that I could see that have already started block construction. They're not going to release lots right away for to-be-built homes. So if you're 55 plus and you're looking to get in from the ground and just move to Wellen Park right away, those quick move-in homes are going to be awesome. And from what I've heard, they're going to have a lot of them right away when they start sales at the end of this year. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on.
Awesome.
And for anyone's watching, if like you're like at this part of the video, you're like, that sounds interesting. Contact information is everywhere, so you can just reference anything that sounds remotely close to what Casey just said, and we could get you patched right in. By the way, so just throwing that out there. All right, I want to add a couple things based on what you guys said. First of all, Chris, you had mentioned the Waterside Lakewood Ranch thing. One of the most interesting things about Lakewood versus Wellen is the most desirable part of Lakewood Ranch is the most expensive. So the closest to town, closest to all the downtown. It's the single most expensive property in all of Lakewood Ranch. The closest part of the Wellen Park to their town is not.
Right.
So that is very unique. Wellen, it's damn near inaccessible for the average price point by far. It is the most custom, the highest end, and they're really overselling that location. So one thing to think about, it's way cheaper and way more accessible to live near the best districts and the newest districts of Wellen Park versus Lakewood Ranch. 2, the Cool Today Park Melissa mentioned. The thing that's I like about that is, if anyone's unfamiliar, that's the Brave Spring Training Facility. But also what I heard is they're planning to do like 300 plus live events a year. So that's like a live event venue. And there's a tiki bar that's open all year round. So if you're not a baseball fan, I think baseball is 30% of what's going to be happening there. That is your event venue, which again, we don't have anything like that in Sarasota. They don't do that at the Orioles spring training facility, and they don't do that at any of the baseball fields around here, at least. So you don't have to go to Tampa for everything, in essence. The Brighton-Moore Mattamy, I think Casey articulated that perfect. I've never seen a Mattamy 55 and up one. I have not seen an active adult Mattamy community ever.
There is one that exists in Riverview, apparently, but it's going to be nothing like that. It's called Wapple.
Yeah, this one sounds... So Mattamy one is, and who knows what they do here, but they are like pretty moderate priced builder. So I think this is going to give an advantage where it's not quite a spec Lennar, but there's going to be a lot of affordability here. And this sounds like Mattamy's version of Del Webb, which people will follow Del Webb communities around the state of Florida. If you peel this back, restaurant, going crazy with the amenity centers, trying to make you don't even have to leave the community. It sounds like Del Webb. But Del Webb a lot of times at a premium. So I think this might, if you get in early this one, this might offer this affordability with being able to build your own house, not being spec turnkey. And there's going to be nothing like that around it. I don't know if they throw 2 or 3 55 and ups behind it. And we don't have any new 55 and ups in Venice at all. So I think that one's more rare than you probably even described. And it already sounds rare, but I think what happens next, I don't know if that one swings back. And then finally, downtown Venice, we hovered over. But if you're unfamiliar with what the beaches are in Venice versus Sarasota, downtown Venice, think of it, and it's a true island. Obviously, it's connected now, but it's a true island, so it's called Venice Island. But it's the only non-barrier island in the county. So everywhere else, you got to cross bridges to get to the beach. Because of that, it either feels like you're on the beach, you're not. They are different worlds. And being 3 or 4 miles from the beach doesn't take 3 or 4 minutes because you're crossing bridges. That's how Siesta Key is. That is how Lido, Longboat Key, Anna Maria Island, all of them. Being a non-barrier island, if you look at it on a map, it's connected, means that if you are on the island, every single square piece of that island, you can walk to the beach. When you drive over the bridge, it feels so much more coastal than I can describe. It feels like everything's kind of near the beach there. And that's not how mainland Sarasota feels versus Siesta Key. It feels further. And then vibe-wise, Venice Island, the way to picture it would be take like a more quaint version of Siesta Key and Anna Maria Island and combine those two. It's not bougie like Lido and Longboat Key. It's historic, it's charming, it's quaint, but it's very beachy. So I think this entire thing, everything you guys described, had nothing to do with the island. All of that, 18 minutes one way to Venice Beach, Casperson Beach, which is the Shark's Tooth capital of the world, and Brohard Beach, the only dog beach in all of Sarasota, Manatee County combined. So that's not even counting what Wellen Park offers alone. So I want people to realize that this one you're probably choosing for those reasons, and then you find Wellen, not the other way around. So I think that's really interesting, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
Legacy, go ahead, Casey.
No, let's go ahead.
The Legacy Trail has like a Northport connector that's actually tied into where Wellen Park. And then on the exact opposite side of Wellen Park, there's Mayaca State Park, which is a huge state park, giant tourist area. I mean, you can go and see like hundreds of alligators. There's camping for families. There's all sorts of activities to do. So I think people sometimes kind of think, oh, I'm leaving Sarasota, I'm leaving all the stuff. When in reality, you're bound by stuff left and right all around Wellen Park. It's different stuff, but it's interesting and definitely things that are great activities for people of all ages.
That definitely plays back to that comment that you mentioned earlier about Venice and Wellen Park becoming a destination spot. Like, people are going to realize, like, Sarasota has X, Y, and Z, but Venice has all that too, just smaller scale.
It's like a vibe, and people, what I've found, I'm sure you guys kind of experience a lot of the same, is that you take people to Lakewood Ranch and you take them to Wellen Park, and they gravitate towards one immediately.
Yeah.
And it is a stick landing. No one ever is like, oh, I'll take this home, but I'm going to take it either here or there. It's, I want to be in Wellen Park, and how do I get there? Or I want to be in Waterside, Lakewood Ranch. Show me how to make that happen. It's one or the other, and it's kind of cool to see.
Yeah, that's a great point, because I do feel like a lot of people that I've brought to Wellen Park, they feel a quaintness of that area that they don't feel in Lakewood Ranch. Lakewood Ranch, if you got in early, which is probably 15, 20 years ago, I guess, it probably felt that way. It probably felt like, oh, this is something new and quaint and charming, and it wasn't like the traffic that there is around UTC and things like that. So again, I love Lakewood Ranch, but there is a different vibe, a different like kind of small town coastal feel when you get down towards Wellen Park.
You just touched on something awesome. If you don't mind, this is Waterside and everything that's happening down there. It's very cool, right? You got the Alcove by Neil Signature. You got Wild Blue that has custom builds as well as stock luxury for, standard models. You've got Monterey by Toll Brothers coming in just down the road on Fruitville. But what Wellen Park offers that it's not currently offering is Everly just opened sales that has John Cannon Homes, Lee Weatherington Homes, complete custom builds. You got Neil Signature semi-custom as well as West Bay. And then you have Grand Place, as you mentioned, which is Sam Rogers, which is almost a fully custom. You pick a model and you could basically expand that home however you want. And there's killer incentives right now. So you're saying you want this waterside lifestyle, but you have to go down and look at Wellen Park and see those communities, because you can get exactly what that has to offer at a discounted price right now. And if you do that right now at Sam Rogers, it's smart because you're doing it before Everly gets in and starts doing their thing. The moment Everly starts building homes with all those custom homes, Sam Rogers' price point is going to grow. And that's naturally going to happen between the two because they're going to be competing, right? So it's going back to what you said, Adam. It is 100% a very smart time right now to get into those communities, because you can have everything that Waterside has, but closer access to the beach right there in Wellen Park. It's kind of a no-brainer, really, if you want to put your money in a really smart financial place where you have things that are close by, like downtowns, just like Waterside has, and you want beach access. There's nowhere else that offers that right now.
Well, it's only going to go. Like Chris talked about how, probably it felt quaint in Lakewood Ranch back in the day. Not at all.
Right.
Not at all. No one thought of it like that. It felt the opposite. It felt like it was so boonies, you wouldn't even, it's hard to articulate. There was no University Town Center, nothing on the way. Everybody, why the hell, you know where Founders Club is?
Yeah.
That seemed like East Fruitville Mansions. It was so far. And people went out there and you're like, I guess if you could get all that, it's cool. But that's closer than all of Lakewood Ranch. Where Star Farms is, you wouldn't accidentally, and that was viewed like Ellington. Like, so all that to say, you don't have many times now no one has a crystal ball. We're not pressure people. You got to do what you want, right? But you don't have many times in life, in my opinion, where you have this much visibility of something when it's still early. I was talking about Wellen year and a half ago when you couldn't see anything because I knew the builders doing them and what they were doing is like something weird was happening, and the beach proximity I knew was going to be hard. Once that's done, it's done. But now you can see so much, and it's still at its infancy. The market corrected back weird in buyer favor, and you can see everything. I mean, I feel like right now you can see everything. Like you know exactly what this is going to be, but it's still priced like it's early. There's still people hesitating because the market's weird. So I mean, I can't recount one time I've had this much information and still felt like I got an advantage. And the Lakewood Ranch never had that. East Sarasota is never going to have that. Like what they do with expanding past Sky Ranch and Artistry, you're not going to have the same visibility. It's going to be weirder. Like the land's not acquired the same. It's not going to come together. It's going to come together as a bunch of one-offs. And you're going to hope that decision you made was right. This one, you can see all the writing on the wall. And so I think to make an educated decision right now, it borderline would be hard to go wrong. I think you're right. Like if I'm wrong that people won't seek out Venice on their own, it doesn't change the value. But if I'm right, it's going to blow Sarasota away. Sarasota's mainland next to the beach does not offer the same thing because the downtown's in a different location. They never built like where this is to the beach. Like we have Pinecraft, which is like the Mennonite village, and we have Golf Gate, and we have, Ridgewood Acres, and it's weirder. It's boroughs. So anyway, that probably was more.
Like 100 years in the making, though. To your point, like all of those neighborhoods expanded over time. Like all of Sarasota was originally developed by the Ringling family when they came here. So all those neighborhoods naturally came in occurrences from that point. So it's unique in the fact that Wellen Park did exactly what you said. They acquired this land and they have this future build in mind. They connected the two seamlessly. And then there's so much land that they still own underneath Wellen Park Golf and Country Club, where Everly's going to be, where Lake Spur is going to be. I've heard Myakka Golf Club, that's right there, Myakka Pines. All that is going to be connected to it. And what's going to happen down there when all that land opens back up? More infrastructure around it. So I 100% agree with you. I think all the writing's on the wall. I think that everything that you need is available to you to be able to gain access online and talk to all the appropriate people that know this information. It's going to be completely unlike Sarasota, with everything that Sarasota has that you want right next to the beach. It's going to be awesome.
And you don't lose if it's a Lakewood Ranch versus Wellen Park conversation. Like I said before, you don't lose the proximity to Sarasota because you're still approximately the same distance, same time,
right,
from getting downtown Sarasota. If you want to access that, you just picked up the island, the city of Venice, in your journey.
True.
Yep, that's what. Yep, Lakewood picked up big lakes, and Venice, 45 minutes to Siesta Key, or you could go to your own 3 beaches, or you could go south to Minnesota Key. And the tarpon capital of the world is south of Englewood, and you're a little closer to Fort Myers.
Yeah, it's beautiful too. And Cape Coral's right there, and Punta Gorda, you have so much water surrounding you all over, and that's actually something that Sarasota doesn't have. Sarasota's kind of landlocked between Bradenton and Venice and Englewood, where if you want water, you got to go to the Barrier Islands. Whereas Venice and Bradenton, they're essentially peninsulas, right? Like you have water that surrounds you in so many different areas. So if the beach is something that's on your mind and fishing and all that, you're actually at a better spot living in an area like that than you would be if you lived in Sarasota.
Especially with new construction.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so all right, I think we beat it up pretty good. We're I guess like as takeaways for anyone, I'll give all the information after this clip as far as how to interact with the team. But if someone was sitting back and they were like interested, they're not here yet, incentives, like what do you guys typically do with customers if they're, say someone's ready to go now and they're coming in town, or someone's a year out? Like, how do you interact with people? How do you get them information in advance? How do you take what we just did, the website, anything else they would call a builder independently? How do you add more value than that being in silos apart from each other?
I guess I like to fine tooth comb kind of like what their needs are, what like we can particularly find out what exact floor plans would fit, what type of amenities each community would offer based on what they're particularly looking for, and then what type of lifestyle they want to live, and basically put that together and give them are like the top 5 communities to really dive deep into, and then hopefully they'll eventually visit and you can kind of show all this stuff in real life and get their feet out the ground and get their toes wet and see that, to get them to experience it. And most people, once they get here and they see it, they fall in love.
It's certainly easier now than it was a year ago, because some of the things that you've had to ask people to have the vision to see that weren't really there are there now, so they can see them, they can touch them, and go out to eat. That's a big advantage. But when I'm just, kind of dealing with people that I haven't visited yet, it depends on the situation. Obviously, Venice is a very highly rated school district, so if it's a family situation where they're, the schools are the priority, I stress that. I get a lot of golf people in my bucket, so I do mention Wellen Park and Country Club. The other thing is there's so many public golf opportunities in that area. You can buy a Venice golf pass for, I think it's $3,300 for the year, or it's only $550 for the summer months, like May 1st through October 31st. And that includes golf at 3 different golf courses. So, I've had some people that have expressed interest in buying in Wellen Park Golf and Country Club, but they're concerned because there's going to be, 800 members on one 18-hole golf course. Well, it only really costs you like $130 a your HOA a month to have 2 golf memberships there. So if you could, supplement that, if you're a golfer who likes to switch it up, if you will, or play different courses, for like $5,000 a year, you can play like 4 different courses, and they're only like 10 minutes away.
Yeah, I think I want to touch on what you just said, Chris, before I speak on what Adam said. With Wellen Park Golf and Country Club, super unique opportunity in the fact that of the 1,400 homes that they're putting in, the first 800 are golf deeded. So when they release these other 600, you're not going to be able to all encompass all the amenities, including golf, like you did at Lakewood National with that entire community. So super good advantage and opportunity, like you just mentioned right there, to get in from the ground. It's been open since February, so you could already get in and start golfing. You don't have to wait for anything. And then to speak on what you said, Adam, for me personally, I think it's a question of sending people and allowing them to do the research on their own. You mentioned the Wellen Park website that they have. It is phenomenal. It has every single detail that you need as far as the infrastructure in the community, the amenities, the types of homes they're going to have, the models that they have, the price points. Keep in mind, quick move-ins will be priced appropriately, and the rest of them that you'd have to build would be base prices. But the advantage that having a representative and an agent brings to you is the relationship that they have maintained and created with the reps, the builder reps prior, right? So there are things that we know about each of these communities that are coming up in the future that maybe haven't been released on the website. We also know when incentives get released and possibly when they're going to be taken away. When is a very good opportunity for you to get in on this one particular home or community that you've been waiting on for the last year. The other question, you're ready to go now versus ready to go in a year. Okay, there's quick move-ins if you want to go now. If you're ready to go in a year, you could still buy your home and wait for the year of construction. If you wait a year to buy, then you're possibly waiting a whole nother year to get the appropriate price in the house that you want for the build time. So I think that it takes a flexible buyer. It takes somebody who has a flexible timeline, who has a gauge of kind of what they want. And when you know exactly what it is that you want, it's something that we can provide you right away. We can find you the exact home in the community and everything that you want, but you have to really dial it in. I think, like Melissa said, you really need to dial down what it is you want, because if you come in here like a butterfly and you think you want this, 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 and this, you're going to have so many opportunities. It's going to be overwhelming. But if you come in with a plan, like, this is what I want, this is the time that I need to be in my house, we're going to be able to gauge things like that for you. An example, Sunstone. There's 2 phases that have been currently released. There's actually a 3rd phase that's going to be coming right across from Brightmoor, which instead of the 40-foot lots that they're offering at Sunstone currently, there's going to be 50 and 60-foot lots that are going to be released in phase 3 that all have 3-car garages, and they're going to be Mattamy homes. So they're going to be priced not as low as the ones that are currently in phase 1 and phase 2, but it's still going to be appropriately priced, and you're going to have Brightmoor right across the street. So I think Brightmoor even has the opportunity to have similar homes that they're now going to be building in phase 3 of Sunstone. They're going to have a separate amenity center. And these are things that have not been released on the website. So that's really what the power of having an agent represents you gets, is that I can go in and talk to people who trust me, who know me from prior clients and know that I'm here to represent my buyers and to make sure that they get what they need. And they're going to supply people like me, Chris, and Melissa with the information to help you as a buyer make the most educated decision you can.
Yeah, I think, too, that was really good information, by the way. I think that there's a unique, and the thing I've been trying to articulate as of late is the unique thing about folks getting individual people like you who are deep in the thick of it and have enough bandwidth for individual attention to treat someone how they should be treated, where it's hard to do if you're too spread thin.
Mm-hmm.
But that we don't act in a silo. Is that I started in a silo, but the way we group, crowdsourcing the information that we have, that every time that all of you guys are going in to the same rep, that they understand it's all Sunshine State Company.
Right.
That gains us a lot of favor. And it gains us a lot of information that no single person should or would know. It's very unique to be doing hundreds of people at one builder with one rep. So not only do you not have to worry, as a buyer, you don't have to worry about, I got to pick one and who's out to get me and I'm going to get an advantage if I don't use a realtor. None of that kind of stuff. Because we chose to go, collaborative and not contentious with these reps because we don't need any short-term income from any single buyer. We do not need it. We put ourselves in a position to advise people as credible as possible, and financial gain and short-term gain is in that mix. The best person in the world can't operate correctly. So I think our infrastructure in itself allows where not a single person on this call or the other 35 people we have act independently, that if someone doesn't know the information, they can know it in 2 seconds from then, and then they get me and they get the broker and they get all that kind of stuff. So I think if you could take one thing, and our website really does a good job at doing that, I think that's a great way where you pick the person you think you're the best fit for, but you don't lose the rest of the team. And that's how our whole team acts. So
can I just say one thing real quick that I think a lot of buyers need to know, because I get asked this question a lot from people up north, because other states in their real estate, they operate differently. When you choose somebody at the Sunshine State Company, or any agent for that matter, to represent you with these new construction deals, you are not paying us to take care of you. We are paid by sellers and or builder reps. So there is nothing that comes out of your pocket to have somebody represent you and be in your best interest all the time. Because like you mentioned, all of these builder reps, they're going to talk highly about their particular construction. But what we do is we break down what advantages this builder has over this builder, as opposed to telling you everybody's the best, and we're here for you and we're in your corner, and it's absolutely no cost to you as a buyer.
And there's no credit.
I just add one thing to that, please.
Yep, please.
The other thing that I think we bring to the table is that, I'm in and out. I've been in Wellen Park 3 times in 5 days. So when I go and see a rep there, that's right. When I go and see a rep there, I can tell the people that I'm with, outside of the earshot of the sales rep, like, yeah, that incentive's been going on for 2 months, or no, this is new and this is actually a good deal. You know what I mean? Their job is to try and sell these people that day. My job is to try and find these people the perfect fit and get them a great deal. That's where we provide that value. And as Casey alluded to, it doesn't cost them anything to get that knowledge and expertise.
For sure.
Yeah, I think
I think a lot of times reps try to.
please.
I think a lot of times reps try to create a lot of panic. Like this deal is ending
Going
today.
away.
This is the today. And I think our job a lot is bringing a lot of logic, let's take a step back, take a deep breath, this logically, and make a smart, informed decision.
Yep. Yeah, I think my goal here, and I hope that it comes across that way, because I get the people telling you this information also benefit from the information, is that I truly try to arrange this content where you don't need to use anyone. And then you can take the information and choose to use someone. Thank goodness in Florida that the buyer doesn't pay any commission, nor do they benefit from a pass-through of that commission to not use a realtor. There's zero benefit. That money just stays in builder margin 100% of the time. But regardless of that, we're trying to give you the best information possible, because we're not structured in a way that if you chose us versus someone else, there's some windfall we're trying to achieve. So I hope that it comes across that way. I have been told many times that I maybe assume too much that people understand what our structure is, because I'm kind of I don't have any call to actions really. I just try to say the information. So I do want to occasionally, when I get the opportunity, I do want to articulate that to the Florida Reload Guide audience. But so that's what we did here. But okay, cool. Well, I'm going to wrap this. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I think this information was awesome. So I'm really glad we did this. But the clip after this, I'll tell everybody all of our contact information, how to interact with the team, all the free stuff on the website, and we will see you guys in the next video. All right, my friends, that is a wrap for my 2023 Wellen Park update on the Florida Relocation Guide. Again, my name is Adam Hancock. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Please also like the video if you would like to do that. And if anything was interesting in this video and you're like, what is this thing? Who are these people? How do I interact? You know, we have a full-scale real estate brokerage that I own called the Sunshine State Company. These three people are realtors on my team here. And we have a lot of ways to do this, right? So all of our contact information's here. If you want any real estate assistance other than this individual neighborhood, this community rather, then you can use all that information. And we're a full service broker. But we also have really creative ways to interact with individual team members. If you go to the sunshinestateco.com, you can go find on the About page our people, any one of these reps you saw, Melissa, Chris, Casey, and you can select them individually and reach out to them. You can read about their biographies. And if you want to work with them individually, we can arrange that. And then you get me, you get Tana the broker, you get the individual agent, and you have a level of information that is very, very real in real estate that is based in a silo in most capacities. So I did want to mention that. You go to the website, we also have a ton of free resources. We have downloadable guides, we have analytical tools, we have podcasts and videos galore. So please utilize that if you would like to do so. Watching today's video and look forward to seeing you on the next one.